And then when we got there, I realized that I had only seen the venue during the summer, and then you would have 400 or 500 kids, and it would go down. And there were like 6 people, including the bar personnel. And so I came up with this Lumberjacks in Hell, and it stuck with it.
Yeah.
And I guess because initially it was just an idea, and it was an edit label, and who cares? And it stuck.
It's that.
So always be careful how you name things, because you might have to write it out for a long time.
Yeah, I like it. Thanks for tuning in to the Apter Party podcast. My guest on today's episode is a DJ, producer, and label owner. He goes by the name of Marcel Vogel, and I really enjoyed chatting to him, so I hope you enjoy listening to today's show. If you do enjoy listening, then please give us a like and subscribe. Feel free also to give the episode a share, either with your friends or on social media, because in these ways you can really help us grow the platform. Please also check out the episode sponsors, Paradaiza. They are a cool Edinburgh-based clothing brand, and I'll provide a link to their website in the episode description in the show notes. So thanks again for tuning in, and enjoy. Right, so we were talking a little bit off camera about Amsterdam. Want to ask you a bit more about that later on. Obviously that's where you're living now, but the first question that I wanted to ask you was, where are you from, and what was life like growing up for you?
The big questions right at the beginning. I'm from Paderborn in Germany, small town south of Hanover. I guess now that I have children, we talked about that as well. Now that I have children, I think often about my childhood, and it was very green, I suppose. Lots of nature, forest, swimming in the summer, playing with friends. Then we moved around a little bit. Which part do you want to know? From where? What do you mean growing up? The earliest memories,
maybe
the teenage years?
Some memories of childhood, teenage years. Are you from a big family?
I guess it's for us, it's something that's a bit in flux. My father was an alcoholic, and he was violent. So my mom split up when she got a divorce when I was 10. And then she had 3 kids, and she had to work a lot. And I also think about that a lot, where at the same time where my parents weren't in the picture so much, but it gave me a lot of freedom to just do whatever I wanted to do. And I guess it also reflects on how I am now as a person. And then, I used to have friends that I would stay with a lot. And from my teenage years, I saw the question also. It's like, I guess with 13, 14, we would start going to parties. And because of the alcoholism of my own father, I had a little dip when I was 13 where we started getting drunk and stuff. And then somebody's like, you're always so strange when you drink. And then I stopped with 14, and that lasted until I was 35.
Wow.
So from 14 until 35, I didn't drink, didn't get into any other stuff, which made my journey quite interesting. Because around 16, around 14, I would go to the first discotheques and listening to R&B and hip hop. And then around 16, we would start going to raves, and I guess I looked a bit older, so I would get in. And of course, everybody around me would be doing drugs and stuff. And so I had this experience without that. And I guess I can remember many a night where I would kind of fall asleep at the club in front of the speaker. And then I guess also really, I don't know if you ever had that, because it's maybe not the usual thing to do, but waking up and then waking up into the sound again and being in the middle of a club, and it's almost like a wave washing over you. Yeah, and then I guess I was always interested in music. I did martial arts in my teens when I played chess competitive.
What kind of martial arts?
A bunch of things. I started with Taekwondo, went into kickboxing, did a little bit of Wing Chun and Thai boxing, but I guess kickboxing would be the main
thing. Did you compete?
Yeah, a little bit. I guess never really full contact. So, yeah.
Nice. It's interesting what you were saying there about the conscious choice then to sort of steer away from the alcohol. Was it something that you were concerned about? Were you concerned that you were maybe going to end up on a bit of a bad path with it? Or what was your reasons behind that?
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, there was another incident. I guess there were like two kind of incidents when you're young that I didn't feel great about, and then I guess it was easier to stay away. And even nowadays, I'm not drinking much. It's like, yeah, maybe if like a social situation, I would have a beer, or when I'm DJing, depending on what time of the night, to either keep going or level a little bit with the audience. But also with having kids, I have to get up at 6:30 every morning, and alcohol is just really heavy.
Yeah.
I like a smoke though.
Yeah.
I mean, I live in Amsterdam.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. That would make sense then. Do you think that is something, I've wondered about that before, because to be honest, most of the time that I DJ now, I do it sober, but I've wondered if that is maybe an area where you kind of lose connection with the atmosphere of the audience. You almost like lose a sense of their perspective if you're doing it sober as well. I mean, I suppose if you like a smoke, you could probably loosen up in that way when you're playing. But do you think that's something that happens? Do you think if you've DJed most of your career sober, is that something you've ever thought about? Do you think it makes a difference to the way that you are in that environment, or the way you play doing it sober in comparison to someone that's having a drink as well?
I mean, I guess it's an oversimplification of the whole thing, because of course there's a endless width of what's possible in nightlife and day life and music entertainment. I'm not a techno DJ, where I feel it's probably way more mandatory to be out of your mind, to really sync with the experience. Then I guess most of my career I've identified as a disco DJ or eclectic DJ, and I guess the parties I'm attracted to, they work also just purely on the music. It depends on the lateness of the set, where I would like to sync a bit more, where I would like to feel a little lift me up. And I mean, I think a lot of big DJs, they play sober because it's just a job and it's your responsibility. I mean, there was the famous DJ Harvey thing as well, where he had a liver problems or whatever it was, where he stopped, and he also said it's like, it's maybe less adventurous now that he's playing sober, but it's definitely tighter and more thought through. And yeah, I guess it's balance. It's also looking depending on what kind of experience you're looking for. If you're looking for something wild and unhinged, or if you're looking for a journey, or it's also the environment, if you're a small intimate venue, or yeah, I guess with everything it's just such a breadth of different experiences. So and for me, it's like I would never be drunk and start. I always need at least half an hour, something to really settle in and understand the room, understand the setup, understand the mixer, because of course there's always something else, so that you know, okay, now I know, and then you're like, oh, maybe I can have a wine or a beer, or maybe not. It depends.
Yeah, for sure. Once you've kind of got confident and comfortable in the environment, then you can relax a little and have a drink and unwind. That would make sense, definitely.
Yeah, I guess generally I don't drink before I start. Also, nowadays it's just all about energy management.
Yeah.
It's like usually if I start at 2 or 3, I probably sleep at the hotel before that, which yeah.
Nice.
Maybe it's also an age thing. Maybe I'm just old.
To backtrack a little bit then, so you mentioned that you've identified mainly as a disco DJ. What are some of your earliest memories of music? I know you mentioned there that you started going out to clubs and parties when you were a teenager with some friends, but do you have any early memories of music before then? Were you listening to disco music before then or anything else?
Well, I mean, there's this chunk. The first chunk is random radio music, I suppose. And I remember how much I used to hate Stevie Wonder because of Happy Birthday and I Just Called I Love You. I was like, the most obnoxious songs. And because of that, it took me another 10 years to really understand his music before the 80s. So, of course, I'm a kid of MTV. I'm a kid of Yo MTV Raps and the pendant that we had in German TV. I had a phase around 12 where it was like Dance Floor to Unlimited. I don't know if that says something. Like all the hits, and then it gradually moved into hip-hop and R&B, which I was quite obsessed with. And then around 16, I finally got, through a friend, he had a mixtape, and I listened to that and started listening to DJ Sneak and DJ Tonka, Nick Holder, all the disco house things. And that kind of made me want to become a DJ.
You mentioned you were obsessed with hip hop. I am a big hip hop fan, and I was really obsessed with hip hop as a teenager as well. So I'm interested to know who you were a fan of and what kind of stuff you were listening to in the hip hop world.
I mean, first of all, I find it so interesting, the CD era, of course, where it was like, yeah, I went to school and then I would come home and just listen to a whole album and maybe nap and then put it on again. And so alone, this experience of just listening to albums is just so beautiful and something that I probably miss, because now you just pick and choose the whole time. I mean, I listened to a bunch of old school things, but I guess the thing that really hit was 36 Chambers, Wu-Tang Clan, Warren G, Snoop Dogg, just anything that came out, maybe always a bit different. I loved the first Blackstreet album. That was pretty cool. I have an older sister, she's 6 years older, and she brought that music into the house, because her boyfriends at the time used to be quite involved they used to dance and some of rap or just the whole crew. And then sometimes she would take me to those venues, and it was really impressive.
Yeah. So there was a bit of a hip hop scene in your area, almost, with people rapping and breakdancing and stuff, or?
Yeah, no, not in my city, but you had to travel a bit, and a 40-minute drive or something, but we were a little bit in the middle of nowhere, but there were jams happening that I never went to. And no, not really. I don't feel where I come from, it had a strong music scene. But that's also why when I turned 18, moved away.
We'll get to that in a moment. We'll get to that pretty shortly. But you obviously mentioned earlier on, so as a teenager, you and your friends started then getting into dance music. How did you first come across dance music? Like you said, that was through, you mentioned the show, right? You mentioned the show earlier on, I forget the name.
No, I mean, dance music came more through my friends because the first raves came to the city. And I was insulated from it a little bit because of the hip hop stuff. And then properly, I mean, there's like commercial dance and underground dance. And I guess they got into it big time from a drug perspective and just partying for a whole weekend and taking too much of everything. And I would just tap along, and I guess I was a little bit more into drum and bass still. That was kind of interesting, and gradually moved into house.
And house music. What kind of year was this then? What sort of era? Was this like mid-90s or?
1996, 1997. I ended up going to the Love Parade twice, 1998 and 1999, I think.
Wow. What was that like?
Yeah, it was bizarre.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, I guess everybody has this, that's an experience that you can't have back. And I don't know if you know, but I moved to Berlin as well at some point.
Yeah.
And of course, it's an experience that's just burned in my brain. And I guess it was quite innocent. Like when you go to Berlin now, it's just a very different feeling. But the rave community at that point, strange. I mean, I was wearing really baggy pants, and maybe I would wear a wig, and it was really funny, and I have really great memories from that time.
For anybody that's listening or watching that doesn't know much about Love Parade, maybe you could tell them a little bit about what it is.
I mean, at that time, I think it started 1989 initiated by Dr. Motte and maybe Westbam at that time, who I also liked. I mean, you forget so much. The tunes that I liked when I was 12 was like Westbam, Celebration Generation, Marusha, All Over the Rainbow, Mark O, like stuff I couldn't possibly listen to anymore because it was really hyper and Mickey Mouse tunes. But they started this movement, the Love Parade, 150 people first year, and then gradually, I think by the time I went there, it was 1 million.
Wow.
All over the city.
Wow.
I mean, we would drive 4 hours to go there, and I mean, you've been to Berlin.
Yeah, I've been
so
lots.
The Straße des 17. Juni towards Brandenburger Tor was just stacked with people, and then through Tiergarten, it was everywhere people, everywhere music. And absolutely bizarre.
Mm-hmm. Like a one day, I want to say like a festival, but there was like floats and stuff. Is that right? Like floats.
Yeah.
So obviously it's a parade, but so not structured like a festival, just like an event where anybody can turn up. But just
I mean, they had trucks.
Yeah.
Right? They had 30 trucks. Like Low Spirit had one, of course, and then DJ Hell would be there, and all these people. And then on the Siegessäule, from there they would have DJs like Carl Cox would play, of course, and Dr. Motte, Westbam, Paul van Dyk. And then you would have the trucks circle the Siegessäule, and they would be connected to the DJ.
Right. Okay.
Now it was unreal.
Wow.
And I think they're doing it again. They switched it up a bit. I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily go now, but for that time was really eye-opening.
Yeah, I bet. So 1 million people traveling from all over Europe, I would imagine, or
All over the world.
All over the world,
Yeah, of course.
And it wasn't like a ticketed thing or anything like that. It was just, it wasn't like a ticketed thing or anything. It was just announced and people just came to party.
The Love Parade itself was free, and then of course you had all the after parties. I went to no UFO party. I think I don't even know, it was at a church, and it was completely bizarre. It's but I also went to just to jump. I went to Movement maybe 7 years ago
In Detroit.
In Detroit.
Yeah.
And it's very similar. Or when you go to ADE now, you don't have the parade and everything, but the dance music community worldwide is just really strong and beautiful.
Yeah, for sure. So you mentioned that you moved to Berlin. At what age were you when you moved to Berlin?
So I moved from my hometown, I moved to Kassel, then I moved to Frankfurt. So I had a couple of years. I actually worked for Apter in his clothing store. But because of that, I also went to Robert Johnson quite a bit. And
Apter runs
that's
Robert
his
Johnson.
venue,
He runs Robert
and
Johnson,
it's going on for over 20 years now. So that was 2001 maybe.
Wow.
And so that's the first time I saw Theo Parrish, Metro Area, Silver Network, like a couple of really... I mean, it was a very DPOS-oriented venue, but seeing Theo Parrish there changed everything for me.
Yeah, I bet.
Just everything.
Maybe you could talk to us a little bit about that. Or actually, I want to ask you before you get onto that. At this point, had you started DJing? Had you started DJing in your own home?
I'm DJing since 1996.
1996. So that was when you were still living in your hometown before you'd moved. Yeah.
I mean, not necessarily out, but I was practicing and annoying the neighbors.
Yeah. And at what point did you start having your first gigs, like playing at your first parties and stuff?
I think 1998, I can remember that there were a few parties. And then when I was in Frankfurt, I did a few more. I did a regular bar gig on a Tuesday that helped me buy records. Also, sorry for jumping around, but
no, it's fine.
Going to Frankfurt opened up what I could find record-wise. Because where I come from, there were just no records. It was like really tough. And then when I was in Frankfurt, there was a shop that had Disco 12s and Rare Groove and all sorts of house. And it was really, the shop I really loved was Pro Vinyl. That doesn't exist anymore, but it was beautiful. It was beautifully curated, and it was just amazing.
For some people that are listening now that have maybe just recently started DJing in the last decade, or they've just started DJing in the last few years, probably, when I started DJing, everything was digital by that point, or you could buy records obviously, but you could buy everything online. But for you, learning to DJ and starting to DJ in the 90s, it must have been much more difficult to source the music, and there must have been a lot more work involved in finding the music and going out to buy the music. Maybe you could speak to us a little bit that and the difference between how it was for you then in comparison to how it is for people now.
Naturally, it's a very different culture, and I guess Antal from Warschauer, he also speaks about how they founded the shop because they couldn't find the records even in Amsterdam. So that's why they went on trips and had to make calls to Detroit and here and there just to get all the music going. And so so for me, it was like, we had one shop. He would get a small box of records that the local DJs would fight over. I guess it also led to you just buy what you can buy. So if you cannot find the perfect record, then you just buy something lesser. And sometimes you would drive around and... but it's also not yeah, I mean, of course, the medium, the records that I'm still DJing with, but it also the turntable that I had were not even replica. Was one had a pitch, a real, and one it was just really different to mix. Really, really challenging, but it wasn't a 12-10 techniques that it's relatively easy. So I guess if you look at the evolution, then you have the techniques, and then you have the CDJ, and then you maybe have the computer. And so most of the time when I'm on CDJs, it feels like cheating when you come from that, but I guess it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I suppose learning with the turntable that you described there would have just made everything else seem effortless.
It was bizarre.
Yeah, for sure. For sure, it's interesting that what you were saying there about you guys were almost fighting over the one box of records. Was there a certain day where you knew the deliveries came and you had to be there first thing to make sure?
Yeah, probably was Fridays or something.
Fridays,
you would bother the guy, and it's a little bit about connections and stuff, but yeah.
Do you still mostly buy records, or do you buy a lot of stuff digitally as well, or how do you operate now with buying music?
I buy a lot of digital also for the ease of it, but I guess it's part of why I ended up in Amsterdam eventually is music, and the reason why I stayed there is that the record stores are just really great. And I have a pretty eclectic taste. I'm interested in all sorts of music, also to gather inspiration. And we just have 10, 15 shops that are really good.
I mentioned to you, I don't have anywhere near as much experience of that city in terms of the scene there and clubbing there and stuff. I've been a couple times for ADE, but I've not really been out with that. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about, oh, sorry, my phone gone off. It's an amateur move. I should have it on silent. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about the scene there and the club scene there. I know we were talking about the record stores, but maybe you could talk to us a bit about the clubbing scene there and what makes it so special.
It's... Of course, it's like an outsider looking in, and through my very special lens. I ended up in Amsterdam more or less because I read an article in Straight No Chaser of Theo Parrish speaking about a DJ set by DJ Spinner. And that triggered my imagination, I suppose, and then I saw all the things that Rush Hour was doing, Trust Me was doing, and I guess I realized that a lot of the things that I'm interested in, that they're coming to the city. So since then, when I first moved there, I guess I saw Chic a few times at Paradiso. I saw D'Angelo twice at Paradiso.
You saw Chic at Paradiso, yeah. Wow. That must have been amazing.
Yeah, the beauty of it is it's a weird hub that people float through from all over the world. Even though it's a really small city, it's 800,000 people. But it feels like a Knotenpunkt, like a networking point. Even with the amount of international people that filter through the city is just staggering. And it's a very dynamic city where things open and close. So I've seen a lot of venues change and transform. It's always transformative. And then, what I can talk about is Rush Hour for sure. They have years where they do a lot of parties, then they have years where they keep calm, and then they come back. And So I've seen Ron Trent play for them, Mark Russane, Floating Points, and just really, really special things. And made an effort just last week or 2 weeks ago to, I was like, and I have to bike 45 minutes to see Antal at Doka, which is my favorite venue right now. And just hear the most insane music. And it's just like a city that's really bustling with really special talents. I mean, I used to love Young Marco quite a bit.
Yeah,
and when
Young
he
Marco
was just popping the first 5-6 years, every time I heard him, it was just really amazing.
Yeah.
And Carmen Masalo, Mendel. Then I like what the I&I movement is doing, and Supersonic Jazz. They bring a lot of live music into the city. Paradiso is like basically my favorite concert venue in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Just, I mean, I've seen D'Angelo there twice, and it was just like, wow.
Yeah, D'Angelo's amazing. Really like his stuff.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So, and then of course, this is all the stuff that I'm interested in. And I mean, hip hop is constantly, anything that you ever want to see, it's just constantly happening. All the pop acts that you want to see. I mean, I never go to the really big venues.
Mm-hmm.
So Paradiso is for me the non plus ultra. And then smaller. And all the DJs that I'm interested in, they come quite on a regular basis. And then, of course, you have the whole electronic music with Deckmantel and all the other venues that maybe it's not my right energy. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm not a rave person. It depends. But that's available. In the Netherlands, they have like 600 festivals per year.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. It seems, I mean, anytime I've been, as I said, it's only been during ADE, but there seems to be so many festivals on in the summer, and some of the videos that I see online, like some of these locations look amazing.
Yeah, of course. I mean, if that's what you're looking for, then yeah, it's just a really good city.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny because it's so small, but you have all the necessities. So, and I guess it's getting better. I live in the north, and a lot of really cool venues are in the north right now, and it's super easy to get around, and it's just fun. I mean, I don't have time anyway, so
yeah.
But every now and then I go and like, do you know Another Taste? Space Grapes?
No.
It's so it's a friend of mine and his homies, and then Motor City Drum Ensemble is also helping them on production and with the label.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going to see them on ADE Sunday. I saw them last year and the year before. And it's just a really special thing. It's just, it's so
There's
much.
lots going on, yeah. A lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, but really quality.
Yeah.
And I always see it as it's a compromise between Berlin and London to me, in a way.
Whenever I've been there, I feel like people seem very friendly.
Yeah.
People seem very friendly, which I liked. I thought that was cool. And generally, what's the weather like there over summer and stuff like that? Did they get a good summer?
I don't want to talk about it.
Nah.
Yeah, the last year broke me. It's like usually it's actually during the pandemic it was excellent.
Yeah.
And now the last year was the worst rain since ever. So I'm in the market right now for my third rain jacket. I'm like, can't take it anymore.
Honestly, this summer, I mean, Scotland doesn't get the best summers anyway, generally, and it tends to be a bit of a joke between Scotland and our Scottish people and English people, because England, especially the south of England, gets much better summers. But this summer here has been the worst summer I can ever actually remember. And I think, to be honest, to soften the blow for us, as Scots up here. I think it's not been as good as it would normally be down in England either. I don't think it's been great there. But yeah, I feel like we had maybe 2 weeks in May, and then it pretty much rained every day. And then there was maybe around a week in September or something as well, and that's been it. It's not the best. I was talking to you earlier about being on holiday in Ibiza recently, and when I came back, and it was 30 degrees when I left, and I got back, it looked like some sort of post-apocalyptic event had happened here with the weather, and it just sort of reaffirmed my thought process that I really want to move abroad again, really want to move to Spain or something, because I do think it just makes such a difference to your life having the good weather. But I suppose
or having a really, really good rain jacket.
Yes, yeah.
Watch me. No, I'm really doing my research now.
Well, my friend Mark would say there's no such thing as bad weather. There's only the wrong dress or the wrong outfit or something like that. So yeah, really good rain jacket might help. Yeah. So tell us about your label, Lumberjacks in Hell. When did you start that?
Yeah, actually, everybody who's starting something like that will tell you that it takes quite a time to give birth to it. But I actually started it ADE 2010, right when I moved to Amsterdam. And I guess it started as a bit of an edit label, and then it morphed into what it is now. I took a bit of a break after the pandemic because I just had 2 kids and had to focus, and the power of no. So I was cutting that off, and now we're on the 2nd release after that break again. So that's coming. The first single just came last week by Gorshock featuring Greg Blackman. And the full 12 comes in November. And I feel very fortunate right now. I mean, I'm with the label. For me personally, it's like every release is just, let me say it like this. Maybe it's hyperbolic, but for me, every release, almost every release we did is like a masterpiece. And I mean, like, no, it's not the best anything, but it's just like, oh yeah, it just means something. Of course, there are a couple of duds, maybe. But generally, it's like we made it as good as we could, and we touched people. And of course, it's a niche thing. It's like 300 copies there, maybe 500 copies in some of them. But it's just the stuff that I really like. It's usually like disco influenced. And I think the second half of the label, so now it's 14 years. And since, I don't know if you know the label, I mean, of course, I'm very proud of it.
It's your baby.
I mean, we put out so many really cool releases, and it's always, I told you in the car, for me, it's always about trying to hear something that I haven't heard before. So just trying to imitate something or formula or something, I couldn't do that. So every time I can put something out what feels fresh to me, I feel like I won. I think from that's where this idea of a masterpiece is coming from. Currently, I have a really good crew of people around me. Foremost Lima, I collaborated last year on Boogie Angst. We did 2 EPs, 10 tracks, and we are just always working with each other. And the last release was by him and his studio partner, Lucas, as they released as Like Minds. That project was Lulu and Lima. Hot Molten Lava, really cool EP. I can send you everything.
Nice.
And now Gorshock. The next one after that is Lima again with Ray Mang remixes.
Oh, I really like Ray Mang.
Yeah. Then I am gonna re-release one of my tunes, but I have a Stefan Ringer and a Floyd Vader remix on there. I just asked Oliver Knight to do a remix for me, and it just keeps going. I mean, I took the break from the label for a reason, and the reason is when I want to put out something, it should have momentum so that you keep things going. Because if you only put out one record every 2 years, nobody really cares. But if you just continuously keep going, you can create something. Because we used to do a lot of label nights before the pandemic, like Paris, Berlin, London, and wherever else they would have us. And I just want to bring it back to that and just bring the crew. And Lima and Lucas, they are great live performers. And we can do the DJ and singer thing. We did that. They can bring maybe one machine, or they can bring a park, or so I just want to expand on that. And the sound is, I guess we can call it new disco, R&B, house.
Yeah.
Depends, yeah.
The bringing a live element to it certainly brings brings a whole other atmosphere, right? If you're doing something like that, if you've got someone like playing live or singing or something, it definitely, I feel like it ups the ante with the atmosphere, and when you're in that setting, for sure. Are the releases, are they mostly vinyl only? I know you were talking about how many copies you were doing there. You're releasing them all digitally as well,
it's
right?
all also digital, but as long as people are still buying vinyl, because also after the pandemic, it seems to have shifted quite a bit. Maybe people have less money, or the culture. I think it has been a break in the culture, and which brings the opportunity of the culture redefining itself. So as long as we sell enough records, we're gonna do records, also because it represents the artwork better.
Yeah.
And it's just a different relationship. And I think there's a certain pressure to keep the quality level high. So people actually, records have also become really expensive.
Yeah, it is expensive. Definitely, it's expensive.
But yeah, of course, if you put it out digitally as well.
Yeah. Tell me about the name Lumberjacks in Hell. Where did the name come from?
Do you know Mark 7?
No.
Okay. He's a legendary digger and DJ. He lives in Sweden now, I think. He has a website called Just Wax, where he sells secondhand vinyl, where I used to shop a lot. And I invited him to DJ with me a weekend. It was 3 gigs. And the third one was in Freiburg. And I was like, oh yeah, okay, this gig is so-and-so, but on Monday we're going to have a lot of fun. And then the Monday came, and it was January, and we went to this, and it was outdoor. We were indoors, but it was an outdoor thing at a lake. And he was wearing a flannel shirt, like a lumberjack shirt. I was wearing a lumberjack shirt. And then when we got there, I realized that I had only seen the venue during the summer, and then you would have 400 or 500 kids, and it would go down. And there were like 6 people, including the bar personnel. And so I came up with this Lumberjacks in Hell, and it stuck with it.
Yeah.
And I guess because initially it was just an idea, and it was an edit label, and who cares? And it stuck.
It's that.
So always be careful how you name things, because you might have to write it out for a long time.
Yeah, I like it. It's a good story behind the name. I do like that one. All right, so I feel like I might know the answer to at least one part of this based on something that you said earlier. I maybe want to pick up on that as well. But tell me, who are your top 3 favourite DJs, producers, clubs, and labels? And you can, if you want to expand on free, it doesn't need to strictly be free. If you want to expand, you can. Or if you want to give us any particular reasons, you can as well. I feel like I know one already.
Yeah, I even named my son Theodore.
There we go, yeah. So I was right.
Because I think for a generation of people, I guess Theo Parrish has been the Miles Davis of DJing. For a certain type of people, they really draw from what he has to give. And for me, it's literally the only DJ I've never seen compromise. Where it's like he's always stuck to his gun. And I think that's yeah. And I've seen him like 10 times or something, and a few times at Robert Johnson and other great places. I really love Danny Krivit. I think I just love his energy, his kindness. I did a few parties with him, and it's always been a thoroughly great experience. And I guess I don't have a number 3 like that, where there's a lot of people I like: Antal, Joe Closell, Mendel, DJ Spinner, Rich Medina. It's so many DJs that you can draw so much from. But for me, it's Theo and Danny Krivit. That's pretty good choice. What's the next one?
Producers.
It's a lot. I mean, I don't necessarily have a top 3. It's like I like people like Kate Trinada. Osunlade is a really big one. It's like really influential. The first time I heard his primetime mix of Don't Change For Me, that's basically how I approach a lot of my production. It sounds completely different, but I approach it with this: I love a loud clap. I love the soul, that it's the crunchiness of his drums, often, of course, like mirror dance or body drumming. So Moody Man would be a really big one. I guess he definitely had a signature that so many people try to emulate and then maybe fail and still are good enough for them to release it. Louis Vega, of course. I mean, like, Amsterdam Dance Event is coming up, and he's there every year. He's playing Rush Hour, he's playing a boat party, he's playing another party, and 5 radio shows. And every year he's bringing a 5 vinyl thing of exclusives. And you're just like so overwhelmed of what's possible in 24 hours for some people, that I find it really inspiring. I guess I mentioned DJ Spinner, who his Strange Games and Funky Things, his compilation on BBE was really big for me and opened me up to, I mean, I'm not a turntablist, but I guess I dabbled. And just the way to approach music, and love that guy. Next.
The next one was clubs, top 3 favorite clubs. I think you maybe mentioned one of these already as well. Yeah,
I'm not a club fetishist so much as a party fetishist in a way.
Okay, maybe we could make it parties instead then.
But it's like a specific moment. It's like when things come together. So a thing from the past is somewhere in Amsterdam by Rush Hour, which was Sunday party. They did more or less infrequently, and they had really good DJs, and just the right people would get together. And I guess it's about sharing a certain type of energy, just being in love with the other people and the sounds. And I mean, it's every time I see Theo Parrish, every time I see Danny Krivit, Giant Steps in London is really my memories of Robert Johnson are wow, but it's something completely different that I wouldn't recognize nowadays. Then my favorite venue right now in Amsterdam is Doka. 250 people, a nice sound system, great booth. I don't know if you know the pictures about it.
No.
It's so you can bring it up and down, and they have I want to say, I don't know the mixer, but it's like 5,000-6,000 rotary mixer, and it's just really nicely set up. And I always feel like, because it's triangle shaped, that you siphon the energy of the people, and everybody's just there to have a really good time. But I guess it's like 200 to 400 people, and just soulful sounds, but it can be anything. I mean, there are so many great DJs, but also, I mean, it also depends. It's like a lot of DJs adapt to where they play, and yeah, so it's really hard.
Difficult one to choose, or difficult one to pin down at what the three are. So, what have you got coming up in terms of gigs and releases, stuff that's coming on the label? I know you mentioned earlier on there's a few things that's coming on the label, but we kind of spoke off camera about some of the gigs that you've got coming up in the next few weeks. Sounds like you've got busy schedule.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in Edinburgh tonight at Eve, but I guess when people listen to this, then it's already passed.
Yeah.
Next week, I play with Fred P in Amsterdam.
Cool.
Which is really cool. And on Saturday, I'll be in Nijmegen and playing, I think I'm going to play all vinyl set at Park Vinyl, which is a record store, restaurant, and club. And then I guess we slide right into ADE, which almost gives me anxiety. Because now I have one party with Luke Una on the Thursday. I have one party called International Showcase with Angelo Ferreri, I think. And then I have it's so many sets, and it's like the whole week I'm just going to be running around networking and then playing like 4 or 5 sets during that week, and going to the Space Grapes party and probably other parties, so it's gonna just be like and then I will relax a bit, and then in December we're gonna go to Australia.
Nice.
We just worked out all the dates that I have there, and then let's see what else is coming up.
So for anybody that's going to ADE, visiting for a few days, they should come and see you play, come and catch at one of your gigs.
Yeah, and I think that's something that's special. I think I'm playing 4 or 5 things, and all the promoters are Italian.
Yeah.
It's really funny how there's
always Italian promoters.
I guess during my career I'm always have been highly UK focused. Lumberjacks in Hell has always been strongest here, but I understand that the Italian soul is also in tune with me, with what I do, and it's so nice to experience somebody who's just like, I'm really receiving what you're
putting out there.
Yeah,
definitely. That's cool. I wish I was going to AD. If I was going, I would come and catch one of your sets. But
it's crazy week.
Yeah, unfortunately can't make it this time. It's definitely such a good week. It's got to be one of the highlights of the dance music calendar for the full year, right? It's one of the best events. Obviously it's an event with so many events happening within it, but it's one of the best. It's one of the best weeks in the year for sure. So many. I feel like when I've been before, it's so impressive the level and scale of production that's going on at some of these parties as well. And obviously it depends what you're going for. When I went, I remember I went to an Alphos party the last time I was there, a Love from Outer Space party with Andrew Weatherall and Sean Johnston, and it was just like in some little, I'm going to say it was like some little cafe or something like that it was been taken over for the night. So you can obviously go and do like smaller, more intimate parties, which is mostly what I like, to be honest with you. But then some of the bigger events as well, and some of the big warehouse spaces, the production's just insane. I went to the Loft as well. I went to the Loft one morning.
Privileged.
Yeah. That was fun. That was good fun.
The first years, I think probably 2012 or something. Even around that time, I had actually, when I was at SIA, we used to audio engineer for talks, and then I went to see Simon Dunmore giving a speech about his career, and that was really inspirational for me because I just had started a label. And at that time, we also DJ'd at a coffee shop for Phil Escher.
Wow.
He had asked us to play, and then, I mean, I knew nothing. It's like now 10 years later, I'm like, oh yeah, I know a lot of these people now. But then it was like Louis Vega would come by, and Ed Jazz and Osunlade, and I would be there in the window of a coffee shop trying to not fuck up. And because it was like, oh my God, it's like, oh my God. So I guess that's really bizarre about RDA, that really the whole world, everybody that whatever you think of these people, they're just there and they're just normal people and they're just doing their thing. And it's beautiful.
Definitely. Is there anything else that you've got planned in the future? Is there any other projects that are kind of like off kilter to what you're doing now, or anything different that we can expect? Or is your main focus going forward going to be to continue your output with music and the label and gigs? No, right now I'm just so limited with time.
And I'm working with on a lot of music with a lot of people, like James Alexander Bright, Lima, Million Miles from LA. Did I mention Ollie Knight?
Yeah, I think you mentioned.
So we're working on stuff. So I'm just trying to figure that out, and then. But by the end of the day, it's more about being creative and creating than music. So I think that sometimes, so I'm sure that there's a shift, but I couldn't say right now what. I mean, I'm, DJ Kisk from Apparel Music. He's doing a lot of artwork for me all of a sudden, another Italian. And because I have a lot of stuff popping in my head, but I just usually don't know how to translate it. And now I'm just telling him something and like this, and then half an hour later he sends me the sketch or whatever, and it's kind of cool. But I have a lot of ideas, but you need to lay the foundation so that you can grow it actually.
For sure. And I know you mentioned off camera that you are kind of busy with dad duties as well. What's life like for you outside the music and outside of being creative?
Oh, it's a lot. No, I mean, usually my son wakes around 6:30, and that means I'm gonna go down with him. We cuddle. At some point, I start making breakfast, get people dressed and ready for school and daycare. Then we have a big bike where both our kids sit in the front. It's electrical and with a rain cover, and then I get them out to school. I just started going to the gym 3 times a week.
Nice.
So I had to realize that I really need the routine of just immediately after I drop them off. I even went this morning. Super stressful.
Good for you.
Because it's like, I don't have time. But I really making it a habit now.
Yeah.
I guess Craig Smith has been an inspiration for that, because he, like 5, 6, 7 years ago, he made this transformation from slob into super buff. And I found that very inspiring at that point, but I hadn't managed to, and I'm in the process of that now.
Yeah.
So next time we see each other, you'll be like, oh wow, you look fit, buddy.
Yeah, you'll be rocking in here like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, and then trying to crack on with my day. I mean, label stuff, preparing for gigs, trying to carve out time for music. That's mainly until I pick up the kids again, and it's like cooking dinner, eating, bathing, night routine, reading, singing, and then when they sleep, I'm often on my bike, and still listening to music or podcasts or whatever. So it's like full on. And then on the weekends, they have so much stuff going. So if I'm there, I'm going to go with them to the soccer field or swimming lessons, or it's just on.
It's full 100 miles an hour all the time by the sounds of things.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer in the exercise as well. It's definitely a staple part of my weekly routine. I heard someone actually ask this on another podcast. It might have been Lex Friedman's podcast or something. He was asking someone, what is your thing that you do that allows you to do your thing? You know, and for me, that's exercise, like exercising and doing you mentioned martial arts earlier. I'm a keen martial arts practitioner as well. So like exercising and doing my jiu-jitsu and stuff, that like clears my mind to the point where I can then...
You're doing jiu-jitsu?
Yeah. Yeah, jiu-jitsu and a bit of Muay Thai and stuff as well. But yeah, doing that then clears my mind to let me get to a point where I'm able to then be creative and do things like work on music or podcast or DJing and stuff. So yeah, exercise is definitely the one.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah. So listen, thanks very much for coming on. It's been really good speaking to you.
Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. It's nice to meet you as well. Nice to meet you. For anybody that's listening that wants to go and check out your music or give you a follow on socials, see what you've got coming up, what gigs and whatnot, where can they find you? What are your links and your handles?
Or just look either for Marcel Vogel or Lumberjacks in Hell. We also do a podcast series, the Lumberjacks tapes, where we had great people on, like Luke Solomon. Also Lade did a mix. Donna League, really cool things. But yeah, if you just check me out on Instagram, you'll find me, and I'm making sure that everybody gets all the information. I actually have a website in the making. After now I'm 45, finally get a website, but I don't have an address for it yet, because there's another Marcel Vogel out there who's into crystals.
Oh, I may have actually saw him when I was looking online.
Yeah, he worked for IBM and crystals, and it's a bit annoying because, of course, their address is taken, but it's probably going to be like DJ Marcel Vogel or something.
Nice. So they'll definitely find you there. Cool. Well, thanks very much. And,
thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Cheers.
Thanks again for listening to today's show with Marcel Vogel. If you enjoyed the episode, then please give us a like and subscribe. This way you'll help us grow the platform. Please also feel free to share the episode with your friends, or you could share it on social media. Thanks again. Take care.